how did Buddha attain nirvana, enlightenment? It is through his method of enlightenment, going through certain gradual processes of awaken from the dream of existence. So, but what I should be talking about is how to meditate, but I think it's good to briefly mention about what the Buddha was talking about in his first sermon, and then which leads back to why we meditate, how to meditate, maybe in 5 minutes, so that especially to first-time comers, beginners, you may not understand what we're talking about. It's good to hear about it, and this is what the Buddha was talking about in his sermon, the Four Noble Truths. So we're always trying to look for sophisticated, profound concepts in Buddhism from videos, from books, but these are very simple, very important concepts that people just ignore. Suffering, the causes of suffering, cessation of suffering, and the path leading to cessation of suffering. The Buddha said, suffering, our world is a world of suffering. Some people say, no, we're happy. Every day we're happy. And it's a pleasure to live. I enjoy living. Yes, you should take the attitude appreciating life, appreciating livelihood. But you cannot deny the fact that there are sufferings around. It does not mean that we get overwhelmed by sufferings, but there are actually sufferings around us. How can you deny suffering? There's ordinary suffering, that is suffering experienced by changes, suffering experienced by conditioned states. Some people in some countries may not go through suffering as much as in other countries, because you have the karmic energy of the karma of being born in North America. Probably your suffering, your ordinary suffering or suffering experienced by conditioned states are not as serious as in some other countries. For example, poverty. We're not living in a poor country. But do you know that there are people who live in poor countries and they only make $1 per day selecting good items from garbage heaps, and they only live around garbage areas? There are countries like, for example, even the UNO has classified certain underdeveloped poor countries. For example, Haiti. For example, Nicaragua. Very poor countries. They don't even have. Some of them don't even have basic livelihood. They're suffering. People are suffering. And then we say, oh, we don't have suffering in North America. We don't have suffering. But how can you be happy? We are happy sometimes on a short-term basis. Sometimes you're happy, but the happiness does not last long. How can you be happy all the time if you always have 4 things confronting you all the time? What are these 4 things? Sickness, aging, death, and rebirth. How can you be happy if you know that you're going to die one day? You feel happy dying one day? You feel happy that you'll be sick one day? You'll be aging one day? Are these not sufferings? These are factual sufferings. And also, we don't die at the age of 100. We could die at the age of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, baby, 10, 20, 30. We die any time. We don't know. How can you say that life has no suffering? How can you deny suffering? The Buddha pointed out to us that there are sufferings around, and you must notice these sufferings. The Buddha pointed out to us that there is suffering. I'm trying to be brief. I don't want to go into detail because that could be a 2 hours lecture just on the Four Noble Truths. The second one, then the Buddha said, we want to find out why, right? We're living in suffering. We want to find out why we are suffering. We'll find out the origin of the suffering, the causes of the suffering. We don't just wait for the suffering. We want to find out the problems, right? So that's the second noble truth. What do you mean by noble truth? What do you mean by Katvari Arya Zatyani? That is the path of the noble people, the path of the wise people. Some people are wise. They don't tread the ordinary path. They want to tread the noble, serenity, tranquility, wise paths. That's what we should be doing. So the causes of the suffering, we want to find the cause of the suffering. Suffering in the Sanskrit language is dukkha, and the causes of suffering is samudaya. So we want to find out why we are suffering. The Buddha said, find out why we are suffering so that we can what? We can transcend suffering. Craving is the most important force causing not only suffering in this very life, but also the perpetuation of existence. It is not the first and the only cause, but is conditioned by innumerable causes. There is no first cause. Things are neither due to one single cause, nor are they causeless. Everything in the universe is conditioned, interdependent, and related. Craving is regarded as the proximate cause of suffering. There's so many causes in suffering, but craving, desires, attachment, addiction, all these causes suffering. We're creating karmic energy because we have greed, we have ignorance, greediness, and hatred, and jealousy, and you name them. Many of these things that cause suffering. These are the main. Craving is the main. We have many causes of suffering, of course. So we know that we want to find out the cause of the suffering. And the Buddha said, it's not right just to go through the suffering. We want to get rid of them. We want to bypass them by finding out the reasons. And then we know the reasons, and then we must design methods to end this, to end suffering. Once we know the causes, then we don't cultivate those causes that will lead you to suffering. The path leading to the cessation of suffering. The Noble Eightfold Path that we've been talking about last time, through the development of the Eightfold Path, the meditator comprehends life, which is the five aggregates of suffering, eradicates the origin of suffering, and experiences the bliss of the cessation of suffering, which is realization of nirvana. So in other words, we know that suffering, we want to find out the causes of the suffering, and we want to find out methods to stop suffering. Not only for yourself, for all folks, for all people. The Buddha is not designing a method for himself. Most importantly, for all people, for all sentient beings. So we want to find out why. And then we design method. If we know the causes, we know how to end those causes, right? And then if we know, then if suffering cease, suffering stop, the cessation of suffering is nirvana, which literally means freedom from craving. Nirvana can only be understood or realized through direct experiences, not by verbal expression. Nirvana means peace, sublimity, purity, release, excellence, happiness. Nirvana means deathness, extinction of craving, extinction of hatred, and extinction of ignorance, greediness, you name them, jealousy, you name them. So once we have the method, we can stop suffering. And nirvana is the way to go when you stop suffering. You can transcend suffering. So this is the first sermon. How important is the first sermon? People just say, oh, I memorized all these words and I know Buddhism. I memorized them. Oh, suffering, causes of suffering, cessation of suffering, method to end suffering. You think by understanding the words, you have understood the Buddhist teaching? Not enough. You only understand the language. you haven't used insightful meditation, you haven't used introspection to imprint it in your mind so that everything you want to do, everything you carry out, every thought is within the boundary of this thought, then you will get away from suffering. So you have to practice it. This approach to life is very scientific. This approach is not only applicable to life, this approach is applicable to solve all problems of life, all problems of, you name them. What's the objective of philosophers thinking about philosophy? What's the objective of philosophers? The objective of philosophers, some people generalize it by saying, philosophers solve human problems. If a philosophy is not designed to solve problems, what's the use of philosophy? If a philosophy is a good sounding nothing, how good is philosophy? What is the purpose of philosophy? It's to solve problems of humans, right? But no matter how many philosophers, counting from ancient philosophers, Aristotle, you name them, Socrates, or many philosophers, they only point out sporadic philosophies to solve sporadic problems. There's one problem that they haven't resolved. What is that problem? A very important problem. Do you know that we all have to die one day? Do you know that? The Buddha solved the problem of death. Philosophers cannot solve the problem of death. The Buddha solved the problem of death. But how many people really follow what the Buddha was talking about? This problem-solving technique applies not only to solving the most important problem of life, which is death. It also helps you to solve all kinds of problems. I remember when I studied back at school, at university, and I was in management. And in the management course, you're always given cases to study. Here is a case. Read the case, understand it, and tell me how do you deal with it. And then the professors give you a case in which they confuse all the data in the case. They give you all kinds of irrelevant information. They contain irrelevant information, lots of statistics in here. You must be able to identify the problems. The professor said there are problems in this company. These are all the background information. What do? Give me your homework. This is how we approached the case. We want to find out the problems of the company, the causes. We'll have to identify those problems, design method to solve those problems. The problem is solved, but you really have to identify the problems first, right? And then you design method to solve the problems. Have you identified the problems of your own life? Have you identified the problems of life? People say, my problem is I haven't got enough money. I'm not beautiful enough. Otherwise, I could have attracted the richest boyfriend. I'm not tall enough. I'm not handsome enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have this enough. You're not solving the problems. You're looking for problems because you always attach to appearances. You're attached to craving. So, these, without going too deep into it, because I don't have time, I should be concentrating on what I left off last time. But this morning, last night when I was driving back from Bowen Island, I saw these deers, and all of a sudden said, oh, I must remember the first sermon as preached by the Buddha. I must remember that life is suffering. Of course, sometimes we have temporary happiness. And even that, is that really happiness? Or just a short-time pleasure, a physical pleasure? The pleasure of the eyes, of the ears, the pleasure of the senses. Do you call this short time physical pleasures as happiness? They are not happiness. They're just physical pleasures owing to agitation of hormones in the body and the satisfaction of the hormones in the body. And that really could induce further problems too. So these are the Four Noble Truths. And then the path leading to the cessation of suffering, we say, what is this path generally? And some people say, okay, I'm going to dig into Google all these different teachings of the Buddha to find out the paths. I want to find out Sunyata, I want to find out everything about the Buddha, and you group it together and you find out that it's endless, immeasurable. There's so many, it's like a sea of information, a sea of literature. Where do I start? You need to know where you start, right? You can't keep on looking. And I always have the habit of going to bookstore, and I join in book clubs and all that. And I have many friends who are professional book seekers. They go into every store, look for a book, flip a few pages and put it on the shelf. Look for another book, flip a few pages and put it on the shelf. And there are some professional students, up to 60 years of age, because they have the money, they're still students. After they get a BA, they get a master in science, masters in arts, and then they go into photography, and some of them, okay, I got into cinematography, I got into arts. The whole life is looking. I don't think we should look for anymore. It's right there. Path leading to the cessation of suffering. What is the path? Magga. What is the path? The Buddha summarized it for us. The Buddha said, here's the path. Here's the path. And concentrate on this path. What you need is wisdom. What you need is morality. What you need is meditation. Wisdom, morality, and meditation, they all work hand in hand together to arrive at what you want to achieve. But every one of these is just a generalization. There's detail in every one of these. And what we've been talking about is this, meditation. You need wisdom, you need morality, and what we've been talking about is the right introspection and right mental equilibrium. Right introspection, you need wisdom too. You don't have wisdom, you cannot introspect. So all these things work out hand in hand with each other. They're not independent. And this is the last time we've been talking about this for months, for maybe more than a year. And last time we stopped at right introspection, and in right introspection, right introspection and right mental equilibrium work together. That is what we call the mental stabilization and mental introspection. Stabilization is just to say, I'm not affected by externalities. I'm in control of my own mind. 99% of the time, we're not in control. We are being attracted by externalities, being affected by externalities. But if you know how to do stabilization in your meditation, you're not being affected by externalities. What do I mean by that? People who have been here for a long time, you know. You're not being affected by other people's speech, other people's action, other people's thinking. You're not being affected by people surrounding you. Is that easy? No. Extremely difficult. We're always affected. Our senses are always affected and accordingly interact to externalities. And usually we introspect not in the right way. And this is what we call heteronomous morality. Heteronomous. What does that mean? You attach your own values to morality. Your morality attached desires to it, and which departed from actual realities, actual moralities. You think this is normal to have a third relationship, fourth relationship, fifth relationship. You think it's a normal, by all means, to make as much as you can. You think it's normal to be selfish, because who does not want to look after one's affairs? Who does not want to protect one's self-interest first? Well, we are always thinking about that way. And last time we stopped at the right introspection, and we talk about the 7 steps to awakening: introspection of attention, investigation and interpretation of subjective experiences, strengthening of the mano with the right efforts, contentment of the mano, body and mind relaxation, and we come to mental equilibrium. And mental equilibrium is when one experiences mental bliss and bodily ease, free of emotional excitement and tensions. One is about enter into the first jhana. We're talking about entering into the first jhana. But jhana is something that's not easy to understand. What is a jhana? Jhana, I like Bhante Panachi's definition of it. He said jhana is ecstasy. Ecstasy is beyond normal consciousness. You go into a certain level that you're beyond normal consciousness. Our normal consciousness is always directed in the wrong way. But getting into the first jhana, you really have to understand what is the meaning of jhana. Why do we have to meditate? Let's go through a very quick review of what we did. We say there are 3 levels of existence: Kamadhatu, Rupadhatu, and Arupadhatu. And all these sentient beings are trying to meditate, to purify the mind, to go a higher level of jhana. And it's very complicated. If we go into meditation, we can achieve it Kamadhatu Samadhi, which means that your meditative level is very high. That's a very high level. And if you go a further higher level, Anagamiya Samadhi. And if you go a higher level, you're already out from the samadhi of this world. How many people have achieved in here? Not 1 in a million, not 1 in a million, one in millions in here. But if you can achieve to these, and you further practice meditation, you achieve Rupadhatu Samadhi. Then you get into the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and the fourth jhana. So the fourth jhana is Rupadhatu. You're already out from the Kamadhatu existence. So do you know that there's certain feeling, I call it feelings, there's certain meditative elements that you should know what level you are at. How do I know whether am I at first jhana? Am I at Kamadhatu Samadhi? How do I know? How do I know where I am? Some people say, I have been meditating for many, many years, 20 years. Where do I go from here? Do you even know your own feelings about meditation? Sometimes you get glimpses of them. In other words, I'm a beginner, but because of I practiced in my previous life samadhi, and it's still in my alaya consciousness. So I meditate, and all of a sudden, for 5 minutes, I had a wondrous glimpse of the first jhana. But it's only a glimpse. After you have awakened from that glimpse, you went out into the world, you continue to be greedy, you continue to be angry, you continue to be jealous, you continue to be you continue to be an average person. But if you can have that glimpse, you practice in such a way that glimpse, that the period of that glimpse extends, not for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, half an hour, 5 hours, 6 hours. You're on your way to sainthood. You're on your way to first jhana. The Buddha practiced in his lifetime up to the third jhana, between the third jhana and the fourth jhana, and then he achieved nirvana out from the plane of existence. He has awakened from the dream of existence. We are now in the dream of existence. We're living in a delusion of a dream. We're all dreamers. We don't know we're dreamers. Not even are we dreaming in our really midnight dream. We are living in a daytime dream. We may not even know about that. And then, how do I feel when I have this glimpse? If I meditate for a long time, what kind of feelings I have? Then you got to know the 5 meditative elements. These are the elements in meditation: inquiry, inference, comfort, contentment, and stillness of mind. Inquiry is vichara in the Pali language, vichara. Inference is viktaka. Comfort, sukha. Contentment, piti. Stillness of mind, ekagata. Now these are all Theravada Pali language. We need to explain this. What is vichara? I'm a meditator. I come today, I'm a meditator. You are a first-time inquirer. The process of cognizing and querying the meaning of the perceived externalities is a stabilization and an introspection of the mind. So in other words, I'm interested in meditation. Now, I want to learn about it. First of all, I learn sufferings, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. I learned that, I have an emotional mind. I also have a rational mind. My emotional mind is always at a tug of war with my emotional mind. How come I get angry? How come I get jealous? How come I have depression, jealousy, hatred, fear? How come all these mental afflictions? I want to find out more about these. I want to resolve these problems of life that I have. You're beginning. You're a beginner. You're beginning to realize that you have to solve your problem. Some people live the whole life through without knowing that there's a problem. They don't know. They just live and die. They just live, go to school, eat their lunch, eat their breakfast, make their money, get married, raise children, and old age die. They never realize, no, I want to pursue this spiritual enlightenment. So you're beginning to know the process of cognizing, you're querying about the meaning of life. Why do I exist? Where do I come from? Why am I what I am today? You're getting into the spiritual, I always call it the spiritual odyssey, not a Honda Odyssey, a spiritual odyssey of life. A spiritual odyssey to go into pursue of something higher level. I don't just eat every day, play every day, and then involve in my daily business. I want to do something. I want to elevate my wisdom level. What's the meaning of life? You are inquiring about this. And this inquiry takes years, months, and then years. And then some people took many lives to inquire. Have you started? Probably you have. I have started for 45 years already. 60 years. I have started for I'm still doing. That is a lifetime. There's no such thing as, okay, 5 years is up, I have learned it. No, it's a lifetime. That's a lifetime learning. Not just 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Not just going to a school, people say. When I get into something that's from my own heart, I lost time. I lost the concept of time. Isn't that a glimpse too? It could be a glimpse. Now, next time I want to say we're going to talk about all these feelings, all these meditative elements in your meditation, not just the meditation. Some people spend a lot of time in how to cross the legs, where to put your hands to, how do I breathe, what do I wear. You are just in the peripherals of the meditation. You're not in it. You're looking at the appearance and not looking at the essence of it. Maybe next time we want to confine ourselves in talking in details about these meditative elements in a meditation. How do we feel in meditation? What should be the right feeling in meditation? And this feeling, how does it go in level? And if certain feeling comes up, do I attach the feelings? Is this a good feeling? Is this the right perspective? Why don't we get into that next time?